Hello, hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and OregonLive, dedicated to the adventure and exploration of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Jim Ryan, and together we take you to some of the most beautiful and interesting destinations in our region, discussing where to go, what to do, and places to see. But first, we want to give a special thanks to our sponsor, Mid-Columbia Medical Center, which provides specialty care for athletic injuries in Portland and beyond. Thanks so much for supporting the show. Before we get started, Jamie, I have some news to share. This is my final episode of the Peak Northwest podcast. Now, I've enjoyed, of course, this show immensely, and particularly love, Jamie, the chance to work with you and hopefully point some folks in the right direction, some of the best outdoor and travel destinations the Northwest has to offer. Simply put, it has been a lovely ride, and I'm super thankful for the opportunity. And Jamie, thankful that the show will continue in my absence better than ever, I'm sure.
Well, Jim, you are obviously irreplaceable.
Hardly.
There is no substitution for Jim Ryan, but we will be moving on in a different and wonderful direction. Of course. And, like I told you, Jim, when you first told me this news, I'm super excited for you. And I'm also extremely sad to see you go. So balancing those two things has sort of been challenging, but I'm just so grateful for all the time that we've had to, all the episodes we recorded together, 100+ episodes, most of them from, I've been sitting here in my closet, talking to you almost every week for a couple of years. And, it's been awesome. And I'm, excited to see what you get up to next, Jim. But this has just been, I think, a super special opportunity and time that we have shared and been sharing with everyone who listens.
Yeah, I hope so. We've gone through a wave of times together, Jamie. I remember kind of the first go around of trying to do this all remotely, right? Like back in the day when we first started this show, we would set up every week with a producer in the studio at the Oregonian and OregonLive newsroom. And it was kind of this new adventure we were taking on together and with the crew here at the O. And then, of course, when we got the whole remote work deal underway, it was like, okay, well, how do we even do a podcast remotely? And Jamie, I think we've successfully dialed it. We've had it dialed for a bit. And the best part of all of this has been twofold. One, I think you and I have become much better friends. Like you said, talking basically every week or every other week for the better part of, 2.5 years, something like that?
Yeah.
And then also everything we've passed along, hopefully, to the folks who listen to this show. We've had some really remarkable guests on here, folks whose passion is just so clear, and then have been able to pass along some of the things that we really enjoy and are passionate about as well. And that has been rewarding and super enjoyable.
Yeah. And again, Peak Northwest podcast is not going anywhere.
Correct.
It is just going to be a little bit different. It's going to be missing Jim Ryan and all that you bring, and Jim, you've brought so much, your expertise in skiing and your sense of adventure, your ski joring and your mountain biking and your running and all of the adventures you get up to. It's been just a joy to have you here on the podcast, and we're definitely going to miss all of that, but it is not quite goodbye to you just yet, because we do have a full episode with you here, your final goodbye episode. And Jim, I understand that we're going to be talking about some of your favorite places in the Northwest.
Yeah, Jamie, I thankfully am not going to try to swing this episode into just a swan song of sorts. This final episode of you and I here on the Peak Northwest podcast, the inaugural Peak Northwest podcasting duo, is going to be an ode to some of my favorite places here in Oregon. And Jamie, I oddly want to start off with a little bit of a story that takes place tangentially in Oregon, actually also in Washington a little bit. But I moved here. I had one friend in the Northwest, and I knew a couple folks' names from work. And I didn't really have much of a network here. And over time, met folks whose interests overlapped with mine, and we kind of grew in creating some goals together and some things that we wanted to do. And the most formative early experience I had was climbing Mount St. Helens. So just over there, not too far from Oregon, right? And I remember going up there, I had a new to me split board, or a snowboard that kind of splits in half. You can go up on it and down in snowboard mode, up using like skis essentially. Anyway, and I go with my buddy Frank and we go climb Mount St. Helens and we ski and snowboard down. And I'm like, I want to reconfigure my world so it revolves around this. Mm-hmm. And that is one of the biggest upshots of this, nearly 7-year now experience I've had in Oregon, is finding that initially on Mount St. Helens and in the years since, getting to experience these landscapes and really fall in love with them. And that has been amazing. And I hope for everyone who's listened and listening to this show has that or can find that experience, because that's been number one.
Yeah. And I love, Jim, that you started on a mountain, because I feel like when I think about you and your outdoors experience and the love you have for the outdoors, of course, you've been in all kinds of different landscapes and taken readers and viewers of the video series at different places. But when I think about you in the outdoors, I immediately think of the mountains. That seems to be like your spot.
Mm-hmm. And a spot, Jamie, that I didn't have a specific affinity for before I moved to Portland for a 10-week internship nearly 7 years ago. I grew up in northern Michigan, a very snowy place, a place where I enjoyed the outdoors a lot. But if you would have asked me where the volcanoes are in the United States, I would have said Hawaii, and that's it, obviously. Meanwhile, you move to Oregon and Mount Hood is right there, close, easy. And I remember the feeling of kind of going snowboarding for the first, seasons there, and just being so captivated, just becoming absolutely in love with this activity again, an activity that I kind of fell away from in college, and really feel so fortunate to have those landscapes and to have really fallen in love with the mountains.
Well, so would it be safe to say then that Mount Hood is one of your favorite spots you want to talk about?
Yes, for sure. Geez, this is kind of, I feel like I'm waxing poetic already a little too much, but Mount Hood, come on. It is one of the most beautiful mountains that you could draw, right? If you had someone, you gave a 6-year-old child a piece of paper and you told them, can you please draw me a mountain? They would draw a mountain that looks probably, maybe not, but there's a good chance they draw a mountain that looks like Mount Hood, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I have such formative experiences of skiing and snowboarding on Mount Hood at the different resorts there. And then really one of the things that's so special about it is it's climbing, mountaineering access, to be able to start at Timberline Lodge high up on the side of the mountain and have relatively straightforward access to the upper reaches of an incredibly beautiful place. That's one of the first bigger mountains I climbed just after Mount St. Helens, climbed Mount Hood in that same climbing season, and have continued to revolve my life around that sort of stuff, of course, outside of work and relationships. And that place is just so special to me.
Well, speaking of climbing, the other spot I always associate with you is Smith Rock, mm-hmm. where you've spent a bunch of time. I feel like, I'm always hearing about you getting up to some climbing route or hiking trail or what have you at Smith Rock.
Yeah, it's such a blessing to have for Oregonians and folks who live throughout the Northwest. Smith Rock so close. Can you think of a more beautiful place to go rock climbing? It's incredible. There probably are it depends what you think, is specifically beautiful, but my goodness, Smith Rock is, incredible, and you can climb there for a lifetime and still not, do everything you want to do. So I felt so lucky that is one of our, even though for us here in Portland, it's obviously a bit of a drive for it to be one of our kind of home crags, if you will, is incredibly special.
Oh yeah. Like you said, being in Portland, obviously you have access to so much. there's so many great things out that we've talked about on the show so many times out in Eastern Oregon, Southern Oregon. But being here in Portland, I know that, you've lived here in the city for your time here, and there's access to just so much within the city, near the city. So, give us some of your favorite spots that are closer to Portland.
Oh man. Just the city itself is what I kind of will regularly refer to as like a generalist's paradise. Maybe that doesn't make a lot of sense on the surface, but if you like to go to the coast, it's an hour and a half away. If you like to go to Mount Hood, it's an hour and a half away. If you like to go to the gorge, it's a hop, skip, and a jump. You are so close to those kind of very different landscapes that says nothing of the forests in between or elsewhere in the state. Whatever you like to do, you can find a place and a crew to do it with in the city. You like to eat at amazing restaurants, you've got that. You like music, of course, there's plenty in that scene as well. You like to go climb at the rock climbing gym. You've got a number of them to choose from. You can get into whatever you want here, and that's special too. Not every place, not every city offers kind of the wealth of opportunity that Portland does, and I really, really appreciate that.
Yeah, Jim, it's been awesome seeing you get up to all the different adventures here that are close to town. I remember you running the Wildwood Trail, for example. I remember you and I went out into the gorge to do all the waterfalls out there. It seems like there's just been a wealth of opportunities. And what I love, Jim, about you is that you've really taken advantage of so many of them. While you're here, it's really easy to sort of be like, oh, there's a lot of stuff around here and I'll get to it eventually. But it seems like what you've really done that's really cool is you've said, well, I'm going to get out there and I'm going to do them. And that you have taken things a step further and said, I want to find out a way to help share this access and information of how to enjoy these places with other people. And I think that really speaks to, who you are as a person and, who you are as a journalist, that desire to, I think, share these places with other people. That's I think what led directly to the creation of this podcast and the Peak Northwest video series was I remember you just being really passionate about saying like, Multnomah Falls is a great hike. What do people need to know to go hike that? And that energy you've brought here has been, I think, just super helpful and a really, really special thing you've shared with listeners.
Well, I appreciate that. And that is the root of Peak Northwest before it had a name, was the idea that no one was really doing, and I say this with an asterisk because presumably folks are doing this, but I didn't know of anyone doing really good videos about how to do Oregon signature adventures, how to get out there and do some of the signature outdoor things in this state that folks really are interested in and passionate about. And the podcast was an outgrowth of that same idea. And here we are well over 100 episodes later, and well over a dozen Peak Northwest videos later. And I've been very fortunate to work with some really, really amazing people, meet some great people, of course, go to beautiful places. And Jamie, I think we've talked about this on the show before, but one of the things that I think I hold tightest to as a journalist, and I think you do as well, is we are essentially paid to be curious and to learn for a living, and to meet passionate people, or in my role as an editor, help shape the work of folks going out and meeting passionate people and telling important stories. And I really hold tightly to that, and I cherish that. And I think we've been able to pass that along and do that in a more public forum in a lot of ways with the podcast. And that's been exceptionally cool.
Absolutely. It's been a special ride with you, Jim. And, I'm just so grateful for your presence and our, ability to do this together and to share this with people.
For sure. Before
we move on, though, any other of your favorite places you want to mention, any other spots you want to give a shout out to, or anything else you want to say about this?
Well, I could go on for ages. We could triple the time of this podcast and talk about all the lovely locations, many of which we've talked about here on the show before. But one generality that I think is so special about this neck of the woods is simply like the forested trails throughout Northwest Oregon, whether we're talking in the Coast Range, whether we're talking in Forest Park here in Portland, the Columbia River Gorge, or elsewhere. I think one of the best adventures I've had, probably the best adventure I've had in the city limits of Portland, if we're talking outdoor stuff, running the Wildwood Trail back years ago now. that's over 30 miles of running, walking, traveling pretty slowly in an urban environment, which is just wild. I mean, going out to the Columbia River Gorge, we have any number of amazing places, but the Eagle Creek Trail is one that I've been out to a couple of times in recent months and have really enjoyed getting to experience again after the Eagle Creek fire, which I covered intensely back when. And I find these landscapes so calming, invigorating. And when you come out of a day or an outing in one of those spaces, the hope is that you feel refreshed and ready to take on whatever's waiting for you back at the house.
I'm with you 100% on that, Jim. It's just such a special place that we live in. And I'm so glad that you've been able to be a part of helping share that experience with the people. Well, we are going to actually talk a little bit more about the future of the podcast and, what Jim is going to be up to as he moves on. But first, we are going to take a short break. All right, folks, we are back talking to our good friend, Jim Ryan, who is going to be departing the Peak Northwest podcast and video series and the Oregonian, OregonLive in general. And Jim, something that we have, I think, failed to mention so far at this point in the show is, where are you going? What are you doing next?
For the next about month, I am staying right here in Portland, but I am going to be working for the Seattle Times. I took an editing position up there, leading their law and justice coverage, and will be working with their crew in kind of a similar-ish vein to what I do with the other part of my job here at the Oregonian, Jamie.
Presumably you're going to be moving up to Seattle at some point, and even if you're not going to be getting out to do, outdoors stuff for your job, I'm guessing you're probably going to get out there and do some stuff in that part of the Northwest as well.
Oh, yeah. I am very excited about the proximity that Seattle brings to a lot of my favorite places. I've probably said here on the show before, the North Cascades, up in kind of northernmost Washington. That area is my favorite zone, outdoor space that I've come across here in the Northwest. I absolutely adore it. It makes me super excited to be closer to that area. And there's great climbing, lots of good access to snowy activities that I enjoy, and all sorts of new places that I've never checked out at all, or places I've been to like once or twice. But it's a really, kind of a long drive from Portland, and I have not made the trip all that often. So I'm invigorated by the chance to have a new round of destinations within weekend striking distance. And Jamie, of course, I won't be going all that far. So it's nice to know that Portland is only maybe, if in the event there's not a lot of traffic, 3 or so hours away.
Yeah. I mean, you're just going to be, just right up I-5, an Amtrak right away, if you will. I'm excited to hear all about your adventures up there in Washington, the Seattle area. I mean, lots of stuff that we've talked about on the show before: Olympic and San Juan Islands, Vancouver Island, the Cascades. I mean, there's so much to do up there. Yeah.
Between the adventure of leading the coverage of criminal justice issues and institutions, and the access that Seattle, when I do move up there in late May, will bring, lots to look forward to, lots of change. But by the time you folks are listening to this, I will be in the thick of it already, Jamie. So lots to be excited about, lots to look forward to.
Absolutely. Well, as we mentioned, Peak Northwest Pod is not going anywhere. We will have a bit more for you here on the next episode, but replacing Jim is our wonderful Vickie Connor, who is a photographer, a video journalist here for us, and who's been shooting episodes of the Peak Northwest video series. We are super, super excited to have Vickie on the show, joining me in our continued adventures and guidance on where to go in the Pacific Northwest. So next episode, we're going to talk to Vickie a little bit more and introduce you to her. I'm really excited for that, Jim, for a new sort of opportunity. Of course, obviously, sad to see you go in the process as well.
Can I like take this space to hype Vickie real quick? Like,
do it.
Vickie is super cool. She and I have worked together for Peak Northwest videos, as you've said, Jamie. And as a byproduct of that, right, these road trips require the road trip portion of things to go out and do these videos. And Vickie and I have spent a lot of time in the car chatting about the outdoors, about journalism, about all sorts of things. And she is, dare I say, Jamie, the perfect co-host to step into this show. It's a big statement, but I think it's a true statement.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I'm super excited for everyone who listens to be able to get to know Vickie a little bit better as she steps out from behind the camera and steps behind the microphone.
Stepping in multiple directions.
That's kind of a weird way to put it.
It'll be good.
Yeah. Well, Jim, before we sign off here for the last time, anything else you want to say? Any parting words you have for our listeners?
Well, that's a tall bill, but just many thanks to all the folks who have followed along on this show. I hope that it's been useful. I hope that our banter has been fun, giving you something enjoyable to listen to on your commute to work, your making dinner in the kitchen, your walk around the neighborhood, and hopefully has inspired a trip or two, or at least ideas of where you might like to go. And also many thanks to you, Jamie, and our podcasting crew here, Andrew Theen, our podcast editor, Vickie, of course, Teresa Mahoney, who is one of our video editors here and oversees that department, and all the folks who have made Peak Northwest happen. It's been a pleasure to be part of that equation, and a heck of a lot of fun, Jamie.
Well, Jim, for the last time, why don't you take us away?
All right, folks. Well, until next time here on the show, you can watch our videos on the Oregonian's YouTube channel, follow us on Instagram at Peak Northwest, and view all of our travel and outdoors coverage on OregonLive.com/travel. Please leave us a rating or review if you enjoy the show, and if you want to support this podcast and our local journalism, please consider a subscription to Oregon Live. You can find details, of course, at OregonLive.com/pod support. This episode of the show is produced by me, Jim Ryan, alongside Jamie Hale and Andrew Theen.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this 2 minutes of Jim.
Oh, no.
Hello. Welcome back to Peak Northwest, an outdoors and travel podcast by the Oregonian and OregonLive, dedicated to the adventure and exploration of our beautiful Pacific Northwest. I'm Jamie Hale.
And I'm Jim Ryan. And
this ain't Peak Northwest. This is a Jim Ryan soundboard.
Let me get just like a slurp of coffee.
Ooh, he's slurping that coffee. Love it. All right, folks. A boy can dream. That's for darn sure. All right, lay it on me. But a little bit, your access is primo. You've got beavers in the river. You shouldn't leave your rooster in the bathroom. I go up, I come back down. All right, we can emphasize that action. Folks, tons to choose from. Ooh. You are a man with a plan, and that plan involves beaches. And to be able to have it more or less to yourself, primo. Well, what's not to love? Just do a quick zip out and back. Beautiful opportunities abound, Jamie. I am like running from Wordle. Yeah, what's not to love about that? All right. Oh, I don't know. Let's go sleep in the snow somewhere. Honestly, like primo. I'm also a proud, Michigander. Nothing to sneeze at, indeed. You just got to commit to the enterprise, the endeavor of taking a honkin' long drive. We're not talking about anything being zesty these days, and we should. Cold drink, warm drink, mac and cheese. I, myself, am somewhat curious about the tiny home lifestyle. All right, folks, we are back talking Southern Oregon coach. Wow. I'm sucking on a cough drop right now, and it's just because my voice is a little baby bit hoarse, and it is definitely not helping.
Baby horse.
Little baby horse. It's a great day to be a horse.
Always a great day to be a horse.
You're probably wearing your blanket today out in, Clackamas County, but great day to be a horse.
Stay safe and happy travels, everyone. Until next time, we leave you with this 10 seconds of Zen. Jim, we had to. We just had to send you off, right?
That is so good. That is so good. I love it.
Thanks to Andrew Theen for putting that wonderful Jim supercut together.
Oh, man. How long have you been saving these sound bites?
Oh, let's see. Let's queue up my Jim soundboard folder and I can look at first modified. It's been a bit. I had the idea a while ago, but I didn't. It looks like January 30th. First one was on November 9th, 2021. Then I kind of paused, picked it up again on January 31st, and I've been compiling since.
That is fantastic.
We love you, Jim.
I love you back. Very, very fitting tribute at the end there. That was primo. There's no other way to say
it. All right. Well, Jim, we are going to sign off for the last time here, and definitely going to miss you and all of your wonderful contributions here.
Thank you, folks. That was a lot of fun.
Acast recommends more podcasts, more episodes, more great shows. Keep listening to hear a new episode we recommend.
My name is John Kasich. I'm the former governor of Ohio, former presidential candidate.
And I'm Jordan Klepper. I'm a comedian.
We have a new podcast together called Kasich and Klepper from Acast and Treefort Media.
Why is Kasich first?
Well, first of all, it's alphabetical. K-L.
I understand.
And I ran a whole state once, too, by the way.
You ran a mid-sized state, to be clear.
You know, a lot of people are going to think, oh, well, this is going to be about politics. No, it's not. It's going to be about life.
We're going to talk about politics, I'm sure, but we're also going to talk about the things that affect us, and I might ask for fatherly advice of, how do you raise a child who won't become a Republican?
Welcome to Kasich and Klepper.
Listen and subscribe now wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.